I appreciate it. August 17th, 2023.
You didn't trust us this past.
No. That's why I was like, we walked away from the entire paper.
Okay, we have 6:30. We will go ahead and call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call roll?
Ronnie Bush.
Here.
Samuel Newton.
Here.
Luann Hayes.
Here.
Casey Anthony.
Present.
William Hadley.
Here.
Jim Hart.
Here.
Kirk O'Clean.
Here.
Adam Modera.
Here.
Larry Jogers.
Here.
Brooke Dinier.
Here.
Scott Helms.
Present.
Jackie DeMeester.
Here.
Nicole Baker.
Here.
Steve Crick.
Present.
Brian Brandt.
Present.
Tim Whalen.
Yes, ma'am.
16 present, 0 absent.
Great, thank you. Mr. Whalen, would you lead us in prayer? And Mr. Brandt, would you lead us in the pledge?
Lord God Almighty, thank you for your presence in this meeting tonight, I pray. And I just thank you for all that you've created, all that you sustain, and your purposes in this life, Lord, for human beings, which we all are, no matter what our affiliation is, no matter what our color is, no matter where we're from, we're all yours. And I love that thought. So I pray that you help us have wisdom tonight and discernment, that you help us use tact, Lord, that you help us be respectful and mindful of others, and that we would represent the people of this county, which we were elected to do, with energy, but with consideration and compassion. So I thank you for this time that we're all gathered. Pray that you bless it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there an approval of the agenda?
So,
By Mr. Bush, is there a second?
Second.
Mrs. Wagner, is there any discussion on the agenda? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, consent agenda, is there any item that a board member would like to remove? If not, is there a motion to approve?
motion to approve.
And Mr. Hart, is there a second? And Mr. Whalen, any discussion on the consent agenda? Madam Clerk, please take roll.
Jim Hart.
Aye.
Kirk O'Clean.
Aye.
Adam Modera.
Aye.
Larry Jogers.
Aye.
Brooke Dinier.
Aye.
Scott Helms.
Aye.
Jackie DeMeester.
Aye.
Nicole Baker.
Aye.
Steve Frick.
Yes.
Brian Brandt.
Aye.
Tim Whalen.
Yes, ma'am.
Ronnie Bush.
Aye.
Samuel Newton.
Aye.
Luann Hayes.
Aye.
Casey Anthony.
Aye.
William Hadley.
Yes.
16 A, 0 nay. Motion carries.
Very good, thank you. Is there any public comment tonight?
Yes.
If you would, please state your name for the record. You'll be given 3 minutes.
Everybody gets 3 minutes. This is I'm Luann Hayes. I am the.
Is the microphone turned on?
You talk loud. Just talk loud. I do.
There we go.
My name is.
Hello.
Oh, there we go.
There it is.
My name is Luann Hayes. I am the Regional Council Manager for Bertha 5, Illinois, Region 8. I'm also a County Board member. And I gave all of you a handout with the information that we have come to from our regional needs assessment for early childhood care and education in Stephenson County. I've been working with my team over the past year to come up with this information, to identify what our needs are and ways that we're going to be able to solve these needs and try to get more children ready for kindergarten. Currently in the state, 1 in 4 children are ready for kindergarten. That's a horrible statistic. We need to do something to increase that. And the way that we're going to do it is by going back to our communities. We can't legislate our way out of this. We can't dictate this from Chicago. It has to be done in each county, county by county, region by region. So I gave you some information that is specifically for Stephenson County. Freeport is known as a child care desert. We are very, very low on inventory for child care centers and slots. We have lost 436 licensed child care slots in roughly 1/3 of the child care availability since 2017. We have 1,600 children at the 200% poverty level, which is what the Preschool for All program through the Illinois State Board of Education provides through the schools. And we only have 655 slots available for them. So half the children that qualify for Preschool for All to get them ready, the ones that are a high priority need, can only get preschool here in Stephenson County. It's not good enough, and we have to figure out a way to make it better. Okay? It's not a school problem, it's not a town problem, it's not even it's not a Bertha 5 problem. It's a community problem. It's going to take the entire community to come together to provide for our children. So I wanted to give you this tonight and just let you know that what our needs and our recommendations are on the back. You'll be hearing from me again on different things. You might be seeing some different things popping up. But Joe Davis County and Carroll County have been very receptive to this as well within my region. And I'm sure I can count on Stephenson County to be supportive as well. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Jody Koss, and I just want to talk about one thing. I listened to the nursing home committee meeting on the recording the other night, and I basically heard comments about how could we possibly pay this company X amount of dollars to do what they're doing. And in my business, I'm a photographer, I actually pay probably $24,000–$30,000 a year to my lab. Why do I do that? I could buy a printer, print them out myself, because I don't want to deal with that. I don't have the expertise. And so I'm sure there is, you're smirking at me, Mr. Whalen, and yet I'm sure there are countless reasons why we hire outside help. That's it.
Anyone else? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to the zoning report. Ms. Henning.
Good evening, everyone. The Zoning Board of Appeals met with a full quorum on Thursday, August 10th. The first hearing of the evening was for Josh DeHaven. Mr. DeHaven is requesting a special use to allow for a farm implement sales and service business located at 10108 US 20 East, Pecatonica. Testimony was given, and with a voice vote of 4-0, the ZBA recommends approval by this board without conditions.
Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Mr. Frick, second by Mr. Brandt. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
The final hearing was for Charles Hayes. Mr. Hayes is requesting a special use to allow for a single-family dwelling in the Ag District located at West Mishi Road. Testimony was given and with a voice vote of 4-0, the ZBA recommends approval by this board without conditions.
Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Mr. Hart, is there a second?
Second.
By Mrs. Deininger.
Question.
Go ahead, Mr. Clerk.
Do we need to correct the address that's in the minute, or in the agenda?
What is, I'm sorry?
The agenda minute, or the agenda says 1928 West Fairview. And I know this is on Mishi Road, I just wanted to make sure, do we need to amend that, or? Mr. Chairman, I guess I'll ask you.
I would say yes.
What?
So we have,
I move to amend the motion then to state the address is, what's the number?
Mishi, there is no number on Mishi yet.
On Mishi Road in Pearl City.
Yes.
is there a
I
second?
second the motion.
Mr. Hart, any discussion on the amendment? All those in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the amendment passes. Back to the original motion. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Anything else, Mrs. Henning?
No, sir.
Ms. Henning? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have no unfinished business. We'll move on to the chairman's report. I will try to be brief, so we can give more time to the agenda items that we have. Last month, I spoke briefly about talking to the sheriff to create a crime suppression unit to reduce the trafficking of guns, drugs, and people in our county. They're coming in and going out of. I'm happy to say that the sheriff has done a great job, and he has crafted such a plan that will directly target these crimes and produce results, hopefully sooner than later. He's already presented this plan to Public Property and Safety last week. It was met with, I think everyone agreed that it was a good idea, so hopefully it will be a part of the 2024 budget moving forward. Speaking of budgets, if there's anyone that has not yet reviewed the 2023 budget, just so you're acclimated with the process going forward in this year, I would highly recommend that you do so. I would also ask that if you haven't reviewed the budget policy, to do that as well as the financial calendar that has been before us for some time. It's a real helpful tool, and I've said this many times, but I can't stress it enough, that the heavy lifting for the budget process for 2024 really needs to happen at the committee level, the oversight committee level, and not finance. So I just ask that everyone be up to speed on that and ready to go. As all of you know, Mark Williams has resigned from Greater Freeport Partnership. I believe his last day is September 15th. And we are working with the executive committee to try to find a permanent replacement for that position. We should know in the coming weeks of whether or not we will have funding available for the Delta for the water and sewer project for Mill Race. We should know within probably the end of the month, and we will let the board know one way or the other how that works out. Also, I'd like to report that Upward Care is close to having a contract ready for our attorney to review. A new business tonight, we're going to be asking that the board approve an engagement letter with Ice Miller to review the contract and agreements that will be part of that, and to also ensure that we are compliant throughout the process with IDPH. We're still working with Stern Rehab for a date for a town hall meeting, which they have agreed to do. We're just trying to find a date and a time. I'd also like to take this opportunity to commend our county engineer, Dale Rasmussen, and his entire crew for the road work that's going on right now. If you haven't been out and about in the county, there's a lot of inconvenience, but the results are proven on Cedarville Road, and it's a really good job. So thank you for you and your department and what you're doing. With that, I will move on to Sheriff Stovall and the employee recognition. Mr. Hart, I'm sorry, give me 1 second to, go ahead.
May I ask a couple of questions?
Of course, please do.
Report. The first question is regarding Mill Race. We're waiting for possible additional funding,
Public funds, yes.
so that would be from the state?
Yes.
Or federal, state?
State, correct.
Okay. And what are the amount that what would be the amount we're waiting for?
$8 million.
Okay. And we should know by?
I would say by the 30th.
May 30th of this month. You mentioned upward care and Stern Rehab.
Yes.
Do we have a sign, LOI back? I don't think I've ever seen a sign.
I believe we have an executed letter of intent.
They've signed it, and we've signed it.
I believe so.
Can I please get a copy? Could you send a copy of that to all 16 board members?
We will get it out. Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. That's all I have.
Great. Thank you. Sheriff Stovall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, county board members. I'd like to recognize Chief Wayne Gift is in the back from Lena Police Department also at this time. On July 4th, 2023, the Stephenson County Dispatch Center received a call of a subject struggling in the water at Lake Leocronan. Stephenson County Sheriff's Deputy Nick Inden, Lena Police Department Cameron Reuter, Lena Fire, and Lemons Ambulance were all dispatched. Once on the scene, Deputy Inden and Officer Reuter determined that the subject had been underwater for approximately 10 minutes. Deputy Inden and Officer Reuter gathered floating devices, removed their equipment, and entered the water in an attempt to locate the subject. They swam out to the area where the subject was last seen and determined that the subject was in approximately 10 feet of water that was full of vegetation, making it difficult to swim and search. Deputy Inden and Officer Reuter dove under the water several times in an attempt to locate the subject. After some time, Officer Reuter located the subject tangled in the vegetation well below the water's surface. While treading water, Deputy Inden and Officer Reuter worked together and constructed a plan to recover the subject. With the assistance of 2 kayakers on the lake, they swam underwater, relocated the subject, and brought him to the surface. Deputy Inden, Officer Reuter, and an ambulance crew member swam the subject back to shore with the help of the kayaks to an awaiting ambulance. Stephenson County Sheriff's Deputy Nick Inden and Lena Police Officer Cameron Reuter displayed great bravery and determination at the risk of their own safety to recover the subject. It is my great honor as your sheriff to recognize Nick Inden and Cameron Reuter for their unwavering heroism under difficult circumstances and awarding them the Stephenson County Sheriff's Office Distinguished Service Award. And just a side note on that, Fire Chief Brad Strong was notified, and I gave him kudos also for his team with the ambulance and the fire truck for their assistance also. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. All right, we'll move on to appointments. We have 3 tonight. What's the pleasure of the committee? Would they like to do, the board, would you like to do all at once or individually?
All at once.
Okay, is there a motion to do so?
Make the motion to do all at once.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
Is that second by Mr. Hart?
Yes. Is there any discussion on the appointments? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Move on to action items, standing committees. Finance, Mr. Whalen, you are up first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. After a extensive quote request through Diamond Brothers to many different organizations, the Finance Committee came to a determination at our last meeting for the upcoming renewal for the insurance carrier for Stephenson County under the name of Blue Cross Blue Shield. And we're going to do this in 2 steps. Basically, what we're trying to do in doing so is create a scenario where, we were in a situation, the county was going to get hit with about a 20% increase in cost for renewing as is. right, if everything just stayed the same. And so through the different quote requests that came in and hard work of our rep through Diamond Brothers, Carrie and her team, we were able to come up with a way we believe the county can not spend any more money necessarily, create a good transition for our county employees to go from the current plan to updated plans that are more reasonable going forward, without them having, hopefully, any more out-of-pocket expense, and giving them still some good options with Blue Cross Blue Shield as a carrier. So the way that we have proposed to do that, and what the Finance Committee approved on a unanimous vote, was to do basically 2 steps. The first step is to renew on October 1st, the same plan. Everything stays the same through the end of the year. And Blue Cross Blue Shield has agreed to this. So there will be no changes as of 10/1 as what would have been had we done a full renewal at that time. Then fast forward 3 months, as of 1/1 of 2024, we are moving from the current 6 plans to now 4 plans for the individuals that are on Blue Cross Blue Shield and work for the county. They're all going to have a deductible going forward. So we're going to remove the $0 deductible plan and the $4,000 deductible plan and try and get somewhere in between those 2. But in doing so, we're also going to set up HSA accounts that the county will fund to help offset that cost moving forward. So I would move to, do I need to do this in 2 steps?
You have 2 separate action
Yes.
items.
So the first one is to simply renew as is for 90 days to the end of the calendar year of 2023. So I would move to approve a 90-day renewal of the BCBS employee health insurance, which also includes dental, vision, the other ancillary things. We just got notified of that today. So.
Is there a second to the motion by Mr. Jogers? Discussion.
Yes, I'd like to, I don't think we've seen,
Mr. Hart, can you? Okay, go ahead.
I'm here. Do you have me?
Is
that working?
Yes.
I don't think we've seen the actual renewal numbers and the details of the plan and so on.
Those were presented to the Finance Committee on Thursday night. So again, the initial numbers for the first 3 months, there's no changes as far as this specific renewal is going.
There's no premium increase from October to January.
There will be a premium increase for those 3 months.
What is that percentage in dollar amount?
Mr. Whalen, would you like Carrie McWright to come up?
Yeah, would you mind?
Ms. McWright, would you mind coming up, please?
So,
good evening. What you have in front of you, I believe that George is passing out. I will wait for her to pass all of them out before I talk. In the meantime, the background is we went out for quotes to 21 different medical insurance carriers and 5 different ancillary carriers, which are dental, vision, life, and accidental death and dismemberment. Carrying forward on Tim's comments, what you see in front of you, the first page, is the recommendation to go from the 6 current plans to 4 on January 1st. We're extending the exact same plans through the end of the year. The pricing will change. The medical will go up 17% for all 6 plans. And there's basically a wash on the dental, vision, life, feed, and accidental death and dismemberment. Focusing on the medical page you have in front of you, what we recommend on January 1st and only holding 1 open enrollment for employees that you offer the 4 plans that are highlighted in green. That is a $1,500 deductible plan that's an HSA eligible plan, a plan with a $1,000 deductible, a plan with a $2,500 deductible, and a plan with a $3,500 deductible that's also HSA eligible. We recommend removing the $0 deductible plan and the $4,000 deductible plan. By only offering these 4 plans, it will save the county on the renewal $500,000. If we do not do this, the change from last year to this year will go from $3.6 million to $4.2 million. So that's a $1.1 million swing. To offset.
Would you say that number again? The number you just said, or?
The $1.1 million swing?
Yeah.
So if you do nothing and have the 6 plans, including the $0 deductible, the total cost of the county will be around $4.3 million. Last year's cost for the same was $3.6.
Again, this initial renewal is the employees don't have to do anything. It's just gonna continue as
We're
They're gonna
extending
see,
it, yeah.
and I think it's gonna be helpful because they're gonna see the actual increase in the premium for 3 months on their current plans. But then they will have an option going forward to renew at the end of the year. The other thing this will accomplish, like most other businesses, one of the things that came up during this discussion was the fact that the insurance companies always renew their deductibles on a calendar year basis. So when we're renewing, like it used to be in July or in October as we were previously, that was always kind of a tricky deal, right? So by doing this 2-step process now, we eliminate that problem as well. Plus, we really believe we're doing the best job we can with the county's money and giving the employees the best that we can offer as an employer.
Mr. Hart, before you move on to your next question, can I recognize Ms. Anthony?
Certainly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted clarification. I wasn't quite sure, Mr. Whalen, what you said at the end. Is one contingent on the other? Is that what I heard? Like if we have to approve both, or we can approve one and consider the other?
You should approve both. If you don't, then there'll be 2 open enrollments for the employees, and you don't necessarily want that. If you approve the renewal on 10/1, it's going to extend just to the end of the year for the 6 plans that are existing today. Employees don't need to do anything. Then on December 1st, we'll have an open enrollment period for 30 days for employees to enroll in the 4 plans we're offering instead of the 6. So it stays, nothing will happen to the plans, the employees do nothing until the end of the year, and then on 1/1, they go to one of 4 plans, instead of staying in one of 6 that they're currently in.
And Ms. Anthony, I would also add that finance approved this based on that 2-step process. If that makes sense.
And the deductibles, we go to a 1/1 anniversary date of the policy, and all deductibles are always a calendar year reset anyways. So you're matching up the renewal anniversary with the deductible. This sets you up for success going forward. If there's a time when we move away from Blue Cross Blue Shield to another provider, we won't get into issues with deductibles having to reset mid-year and you lose those monies theoretically.
Can you explain how?
Mr. Hart, would you like to speak? Press your button, please. Anything else, Ms. Anthony?
No, thank you.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Hart,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
It's like a Chip and Dale. What was I going to say? I was going to say, can you explain how it's been handled as far as the deductible reset in the past, given the fact that we were October rather than 1/1?
Back 3 years ago, when going from the local government health plan, it was a 7/1 renewal, and then it went to a 10/1. I believe that at that time, deductible credits were given for that time period.
So when it rolled over to 1/1, they would give a credit for the deductibles incurred
Correct.
during
But
that last quarter.
there weren't really credits given because there's a zero deductible plan.
Right, on those, yeah. On the other ones, they would credit it.
Mhm.
What amount of money is the premium? First off, this is an extension of our current, or is it a short premium, is it a short policy year? How are the Blues perfecting this?
It's gonna be a 15-month, it's an extension.
Okay, so what they're doing is they're not doing it in 3 months or 12 months. They're doing a total of 15 months
Correct. With no
Yeah.
rate increase.
with the rate increase.
With the rate staying the same for 15 months.
Except the 3 months has the 17% increase.
Correct.
That's what I've been told. So it's
Correct.
not, what is the 17% increase for those 3 months? What amount of money is that?
I'd have to do the math on the calculator, I can't do it in my head at the moment. I can give you in a monthly figure, I can give you an example.
Okay.
So the zero deductible plan, the expiring rate is $1,028.
Okay.
The renewal of that is $1,202.
Okay.
So that plan will go away, and the next lowest deductible plan will be the $1,500 deductible, and that's around $1,058.
$1,050.
Yes, so it stays pretty flat. And the county will then deposit $1,500 into an HSA account for that employee to offset that increase in deductible. So in round numbers, again, keeping the 6 plans, it's an increase of about $621,000 to the county. Assuming all of the employees stay, the spread in each plan stays the same, which 90% of the employees are in the zero deductible plan.
So if absolutely everything stayed the same and we didn't make this change, our annual increase would be $621,000. Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
That would be the difference between the 3.6 million and the 4.2 million that you referenced earlier.
correct.
And that is purely the county cost. That's not the employee's contribution.
That's the total cost. The
That's-
county's cost would be whatever the splits are for whatever the splits are. It's either correct me if I'm wrong, 80%, 82%. So the county.
For different classes.
Yes, for
right.
different
No, I get it.
employees. So
Right.
let's round number 80%. The county pays 80, employees would pay 20.
So we'd be going from 3.6 to 4.2. If we left everything the same, that would be the total cost of the plan,
Correct,
including the employee contribution and the county contribution.
correct.
Okay. And so making this change, you're estimating, making some assumptions because we don't know who will take what plan.
Correct.
We can think we know, and we can guess to a degree, but we don't know what numbers we're dealing with specifically.
Make us the best guess that we can.
We will make the best, yeah, absolutely. So on that basis, you're saying that we would save $621,000.
No, on that basis, I'm saying we would save $500,000.
$500,000, and that would be including 3 months and the 12 months for the total 15 months, doing it in the 2-step process that you outlined.
Correct,
And that would save $500,000 in Blues premium.
correct.
And what are you estimating the cost of our contribution to the HSA to be?
$378,000.
$378.
Mr. Howard,
Yes.
before you continue, Mr.
Yes.
Hagley has his buttons
Yes,
pressed. Can I move to him, please?
No.
Mr. Hagley, go ahead.
yes, thank you. Yes, thank you, Chairman.
Why'd you ask me?
Couple questions. Have we checked with our unions yet on this? I know the unions can be tough when we change health insurance. Have we looked into that?
Yes, do you want me to answer that? Yes, we have talked to one of the labor attorneys, giving him preliminary numbers, giving him preliminary plans in terms of what the new numbers are, what the county will deposit into the HSAs. So he has that information. So if and when this is approved tonight, then they'll have that information to be able to go into the union negotiations. There's 3 contracts up by the end of this year, and there's 2 up next year.
Because I've always recommended to the labor attorneys that we need to put wording in our contracts stating that, from year to year, we might have to change our insurance policy, policies and stuff like that, and that, we need to put that wording in there. Lowenbaum always agreed with me on that. I hope our labor attorneys do, with the sheriff's department attorney and our other labor attorney work on that when they do that in the contract, so then down the road, we won't run into problems with union contracts and everything. So I'm looking at last year's revenue and expense report, and last year, the contributions from the employees, we had budgeted revenue of $742, and for the county contribution, $3.428, and so on health premium, it was 4.1. So you're saying next year, if we do this plan, we're going to budget the same as the 4.1 then again on health insurance.
I don't know that we've analyzed that yet, Mr. Hadley, completely, but I think we'll be at or below that, actually. I'm hoping.
It would be, my numbers are based on 185 enrollees, which was the last number we used to give out to all of the carriers for quoting. Based on 185 employees plus dependents. That number today is 189. It's fluid. It changes pretty much every month. But my numbers are based on 185.
So we shouldn't see an increase.
No.
Should be pretty close to flat year over year.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Anthony?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have questions about the HSA. So that $378,000 that we're estimating for a county contribution, that's not included in the $500,000 savings, or is it?
That would make the $500,000 savings go lower. So on the sheet you have in front of you, excuse me, the savings just by offering the 4 plans is $500,000.
I see the bottom number. I apologize.
No worries.
I did not see that.
No worries.
Do any of our current plans have HSAs available?
Yes.
Are our employees using HSAs?
No.
Interestingly, I spoke to 2 different brokers for my job actually today, and I know that this is the way that a lot of companies are going with supplementing with HSAs. But that's the concern, is employees don't necessarily see the benefit because they don't utilize the HSAs. So do we have any kind of plan to educate and encourage the use of that?
Yes, ma'am. So that's our job as your broker. Last year we had people on site for open enrollment to answer any questions. Last year we did go to an online open enrollment platform where all of the plans are right in front of the employee, and you can do what-if scenarios. You can look at how much your premium would be, what the deductibles are. You can plan it online, and then we're always available for questions. A lot of employees have specific questions in terms of how they're used, what prescriptions are included. We do anticipate by moving away from the 0 deductible to the $1,500 or any other deductible, there will be a lot of questions, and that's what we're here for sure. We went out to all of the departments to sit and talk with everyone, whoever wanted to talk to us and field questions. When we first rolled into this plan, we'll absolutely do the same thing this year. I do anticipate a lot more questions for sure. The great thing about an HSA, which is a health savings account, is that it rolls over indefinitely. So it's not a use it or lose it. So if you have a good health year, so to speak, you can keep that $3,500 or $2,000 and roll it indefinitely to where when you retire, you're on Medicare, you can use that. It's a great savings tool. It also saves on taxes. The employees will save taxes on that as well.
And this is a question for someone in the county, but is that something like that contribution, that HSA contribution, will that be coming to us at a different point, or? does that need approval because we're putting money into it, or is that just rolled in?
My understanding, if I may, was that was part of the January 1st renewal.
Correct.
Okay, so it was, what, I heard 3,500 or 2,000?
So in the bottom of that sheet, you'll see the recommended HSA contribution by employee type. So if you're just a single employee with no dependents, the contribution would be $1,500. If you're an employee with a spouse, it would be $2,000. If you're an employee with children, $2,500. Employee, spouse plus children would be $3,000.
Thank you.
Anyone else before I go back to Mr. Hart? Mr. Hart?
So first, that bottom of the first page.
Mr. Hart, could you use your microphone, please?
That bottom of the first page is what we're estimating in terms of $504,915 less on premium, an additional $377,500 in HSA contribution.
Correct.
For a net savings, if it works out this way, estimated, of $127,415.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. On the next page, can we go over this a little bit?
Sure.
This is the ancillary coverage.
So this is the ancillary coverage. On the next page, you'll see dental, vision, life, accidental death and dismemberment, and supplemental life costs. The dental did go up a little bit. However, Blue Cross Blue Shield gives a 2% savings on the medical if you roll all of the ancillary with them as well, kind of a volume discount, so to speak. So that saves $87,000. The rest of the premiums were flat. And all of the other ancillary quotes we got weren't as good as that $87,000 in savings for the dental. We did get the agreement from Blue Cross also to have this renewal on 1/1, same as the medical. We just got that at about 3 o'clock today. So again, one open enrollment for all benefits.
And the dental, the AD&D, the vision, everything would be with the Blues.
Correct, it's Dearborn, but it's a division of Blue Cross Blue Shield.
And the way that's handled, that $87,196, is they're giving a 2% discount on the medical for rolling in the ancillary coverages.
Correct.
So it's not $87,196 in addition to $127,415. It's $87,196 included in the $127,415.
Correct.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I have another question, and that is
Did you press your button, Mr. Hart?
on the HSAs being part of this. However we perfect that, once we start doing that, is that something, this is kind of for the county, is that something we continue to do indefinitely?
I think it's looked at on an annual basis.
Yeah,
At the
I
renewal.
don't think we can answer that.
So we could make these contributions to the employees who change, and then you're saying we could decide later to not make those contributions.
Mr. Chairman.
Future contributions.
Right, future, obviously we're only locked in for whatever policy period we're doing a enrollment for. Under this scenario, there'd be one enrollment that would be done 1/1.
The enrollment period is for 30 days before 1/1, so the month of December.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Hart?
I think the only thing I don't know is, again, what the exact dollar amount is for these 3-month premium. Unless it's on here and I'm not seeing it.
I could do the math.
Before I vote on it, I'm gonna need to know what the amount of money is that I'm voting on for the 3 months and for the 12 months.
You know what, you could do it this way. If you took 4,272,558, divided it by 12, and multiplied it by 3, would be the 3 months.
Okay? Can somebody do that?
Georgia, can you?
Be about $1,050,000. 4.2 million.
1 million, I'm sorry,
$1,050,000.
and $50,000.
Those 3 months.
Does that sound right, Kara?
It's about a quarter of 4 million, so yes.
Okay.
So
And
then the renewal will be 3,146,469 thereabouts.
146,
3,146,469 divided by 12. That's your monthly.
okay, and annually it's 3.1 million.
Yes.
And 3 months is just over $1 million. So according to this, the 15 months would be $4,200,000 approximately.
Right.
And that's total cost of the plan,
Correct.
county and employee contribution.
Correct.
Thank you.
All right, Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Tim Whalen,
Yes.
Ronnie Bush,
Aye.
Samuel Newton,
Aye.
Luann Hayes,
Aye.
Casey Anthony,
Aye.
William Hatton,
Yes.
Jim Hart,
Yes.
Kurt Copeland,
Yes.
Adam Monero,
Aye.
Larry Jobers,
Aye.
Brooke Dynamite,
Yes.
Scott Holmes,
Aye.
Jackie DeMeester,
Aye.
Nicole Baker,
Aye.
Steve Frick,
Yes.
Brian Brandt,
Aye.
16 ayes, 0 nay, motion carries.
All right, thank you very much. Your second action item, Mr. Whalen.
Second action item would be is to approve the Blue Cross Blue Shield employee health insurance renewal for January 1st, 2024. As discussed and stated, where we will move to 4 plans from 6, from a $1,500 deductible up through $3,500, and we will in fact make contributions to the employees' HSA plans as part of that transition. So I would so move.
Is there a second? Mr. Brandt, discussion.
I'd like to, can I make a motion to amend, or do I have to wait for discussion?
Can you push the button, please?
I can't.
Mr. Hart, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the renewal for January 1, 2024 to include a requirement to go out for an RFP to the marketplace for that renewal.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Anthony. Discussion on the amendment.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Mr. Whalen.
I don't see the need for doing that. We have gone out to 30 almost companies. 21 companies and received back 8 proposals, of which we picked Blue Cross Blue Shield. And part of the problem with doing that is our county is a very high risk. And we've been through all that. The committee, finance committee, has analyzed a lot of these things. And so, again, I will be voting no against that amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Hart, can you clarify your amendment? Is it to go out for RFP before the 2024 renewal?
No, it is
Or
not.
for the 2025 renewal?
It's for it. What I'm recommending is that we go ahead and do this 3 months. And when we come to 1/1, I recommend that we do that renewal with Blue Cross Blue Shield. And that sometime in that first quarter, as soon as possible, we send out a request for proposals. The request for proposals is to send out to look at various brokers, including Diamond Brothers, which I think they've done a very good job. I think good risk management and financial management requires that we do that. This will end up being, what, about 6% of our annual budget? If this were anything else, we would go out for RFPs or RFQs. we would be required to. I believe we're required to do that in this instance as well. I think if we don't do that, I think we're breaking the law. Some other people have some different feelings on that, and there's a written opinion on that. The written opinion that indicates that we don't have to do that is from 2007. It's from a court case that goes back to, I believe, 1991. And it's not germane to our scenario. I don't think that we can spend $4 million or $4.2 million and not take it out for an RFP. More importantly, there's a huge difference between what you can do and what you should do. I'm a fiscal conservative. I can't see not going out for an RFP. I don't know if everyone here understands what that means or what it is. I'd be happy to explain it. When you're paying this kind of premium, you go out for an RFP. Everybody does.
If I can ask you again.
Sure.
Because if I heard you right, when I asked if this was for the 2025 renewal, I believe you said no.
Correct.
But then I think you alluded to doing an RFP for a broker.
That is correct.
Not for the insurance itself.
Not for the insurance. I'm saying let's renew. I think Carrie's done an excellent job. I think especially for the 3 months. I am not denigrating Diamond Brothers. What I am saying is that I can tell you that what you're doing is completely out of sync with what groups of this size do. That's informed by 40 years of my professional experience.
Mr. Hart, if I can, and I'll have the state's attorney speak to this, your motion to amend is off the original motion to approve a health insurance renewal, but you're adding a component for a broker to this.
I am adding a component to take it out for a request for proposal.
For a broker, correct?
That would be what's called a broker selection.
Right.
They may change the insurance, they may not change the insurance.
Right. So if you will, I'm going to
Yes,
ask the state's attorney to speak to this about adding this component to a health insurance renewal.
Sure.
Yeah, yes. While I certainly understand the desire to kind of involve the competitive marketplace, the motion is to approve a healthcare proposal. A motion to go out for RFP for a healthcare broker. I mean, it is kind of related, but it's a different thing. It's not really amending our acceptance. It's more of like a kind of like a trailer bill. I think that there's a way that you can do what you want to do, but I don't think it's by amending this motion. I think that you would, I guess that would probably should go through committees and move through that way, but to me, it doesn't seem sufficiently germane to the main motion to be a proper motion. Now, I have no power. If the chairman were to rule that, then that would be an appealable decision by the board, but that would be my recommendation, is to rule that not sufficiently germane to the main motion.
And I agree. I understand exactly what you're wanting to accomplish, but I don't believe that it is part of the health insurance renewal. It's the next step. So I will not allow that amendment. So we're back to the original motion.
Okay, can I respond to that? I assume.
Sure. Yep, go ahead.
First, I take exception to that. I don't agree with that, and I'd like to see something in writing somewhere that substantiates that beyond Mr. Larson's opinion and Mr. Helm's opinion.
I have no issue with asking the board if they would like to consider this amendment. Just raise show of hands if they'd like to consider. You're not voting for this, just whether you'd like to consider this amendment.
Well, what I'm asking is for someone to substantiate in writing that this is not related or not appropriate to this motion. It's that simple.
Okay.
That doesn't exist because someone says so, it exists because it's somewhere in writing.
Well, come on up here, I'll show you.
Mr. Hart,
Yes.
would you come up here, please?
Let's see. Amendment to a motion statement from this important statement to the main motion.
Use your microphone so the full board can hear.
Let's see, amendments in Robert's rules. An amendment must be germane, relevant to the motion at hand. Amendment to the motion is only permissible if it's germane to the main motion. Incidental motions, Robert's Rule of Order online, Article 4. The question is the amendment germane to the resolution? No appeal can be taken from the decision of the assembly. This question is open to debate. So, I mean, there it is in writing 4 times.
And I'll go back.
I mean, you're free to appeal the chair's decision, and the board can vote on it, but the chair certainly has the ability to rule an amendment as out of order on the basis of germaneness.
Okay. I just read that and I come to a completely different conclusion. I see this as being absolutely germane to the health insurance renewal, which, by the way, is not happening until next year. This is months in advance. There's no reason why we couldn't go out for an RFP. I brought this up before. I brought it up at the county board meeting. I think I probably mentioned it in finance. And I don't understand why you wouldn't want to go out to various sources and do our due diligence and make sure that we are getting the best deal we can and have the best minds looking at it. The more people that look at something, the more options we have, the more ideas we garner. I think there may be additional resources we have. But again, I can't see as how this isn't germane to the health insurance.
So my ruling on this is it's not germane to the 2024 renewal. It would be for the 2025, not to 2024.
Let me ask you this, and I'm asking Mr. Larson and yourself, Mr. Chairman. I think you know what I'm trying to achieve here.
Absolutely.
I am not advocating to not do this renewal. And I am not complaining about the work that was done, not in the least. What I am saying is that we should be going out for RFPs every year or 2 years. So let me make, and I want to say one other thing. I really don't think that this comports with the state law, the county law, 55 of the Illinois compiled statutes. I do not think we are in accordance with what the law is on procurement.
Mr. Hart, you're allowed to ask the board to appeal my decision, and we can take a vote on that.
Okay, so I'm explaining why I'm making this amendment. I don't think that you are fulfilling your duties and responsibilities. I think you're breaking the law in doing it this way. That said, I don't agree with what you're saying, but I would like to make a different amendment to it.
Are you withdrawing your first?
I can, as long as I'm able to make a second amendment to this, I'd be happy to withdraw that amendment.
You have other speakers after you, but you're more than welcome to come back. So
Thank you.
Who made the second?
Casey.
Casey, are you willing to withdraw?
Yes.
Okay, so we're back to the original motion. We're going to move now to Ms. Anthony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First off, just a little side comment. While I do appreciate, Mr. Chairman, your appreciation for the rules, I ask that you do that in fairness, that everyone should push their button before being allowed to speak.
Sure.
On the other note.
I'm glad to.
Thank you. On the other note, to what the discussion that was just being had, I just want to bring up that in recent history, this came up or an amendment was made that I would argue wasn't necessarily germane, but others thought it was. And it was a strategy that was used so that their agenda could be pushed forward, and that would be with a nursing home. So when the action item was for the interfund loan, there was an amendment made to that if conditions weren't met, then an RFP would be put out for the sale of a nursing home. I would argue that that's very, very similar to what Mr. Hart is asking for right now. And so we have allowed that in the past, and unfortunately, those strategies are used because people feel like they can't get things put on the agenda. Mr. Hart has asked for this particular thing to be addressed, to go out for a broker in the past. There's things that I've asked to be brought forth to be put on agendas that doesn't get put on there. And so here we are using different strategies. And it is relatable. We have, my company's going out for a broker right now too. We're doing our due diligence. We're looking at other brokers. So I don't think that it's necessarily out of line or that it's not germane to what's being asked, but I will wait until Mr. Hart makes his second amendment to speak to that further. Thank you.
Mr. Hadley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I want to commend the Finance Committee and Mrs. McWright for a job well done. I'm all about saving money, and if we can keep the premium at 4.1, I'll be very happy. On the other hand, I agree with Mr. Hart that we should, I think this is the fourth year we're going into Blue Cross Blue Shield with a broker, that, we should on occasion test the waters. We would be doing a disservice to taxpayers of Stephenson County if we didn't do that. So maybe to put this to rest, I'm going to ask Mr. Whalen that maybe the first quarter of next year that you would seriously look at this. Please seriously look at this. Just don't throw it away. Let's just go out for an RFP, Maybe we don't have to go through this, but let's go out for an RFP and test the waters. I'm all for this. I'm glad to save the money. So let's go out for an RFP, test the waters, and I'm asking you personally that you guys get an RFP and put that out at the next quarter so we can look at that, So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Mr. Whalen.
Mr. Chairman, I have no problem testing the waters and going out for an RFP in that case. What I heard was that was the intent of the motion, was to look at that for the next review period. So if that's the case, certainly bring that to finance and we will put that out as part of next year's business. I have no issues with that.
Right. Well, can I respond? Or let me go?
Are you asking him to respond, Mr. Whalen?
No, I'm not asking him. I'm just stating that, what I heard was that we're looking at this as part of next year. That was the same comment Mr. Hadley made. I have no issues with that as the finance chairman. I think that makes good sense. Now, in this process and transitioning through, we did go out again to 20-some companies. We got, to me, that is going out for bids. I think maybe it's not investigating every single option that's out there in the marketplace, but in that process, people have to remember that we are a high risk right now. We are not everybody, out of 20-some companies, we only got 8 people back that offered bids. That's not a very high percentage, right? So again, I haven't been in the insurance business my whole life. I give that respect to others that have been. But in the sense of doing the best we can for both the employees of this county and Stephenson County as a whole, financially, I think Diamond Brothers did a great job of bringing all this together. And this 2-step process, I think, is going to work very well for both situations, to be able to roll that over to get us on a calendar year, which will help for many, many years to come. So it's a win-win in that regard. But if somebody wants the Finance Committee to commission an RFP next year, I have no issues with that whatsoever. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Jokers.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I do believe we did look at 21 other companies. As we said, only 8 of them were wanting to bid on it. I think that's the state of where we're at. I totally disagree with the assumption that we're breaking the law, because this is a renewal of insurance, not going out for a whole new plan or some other project. But I do believe, yeah, it's okay, let's do that next quarter or whenever, let's go out and do an RFP for a broker, I'm okay with that, but I don't believe we're breaking the law here, so I think this is a great plan put together by Diamond Brothers, very fair for the county, very fair for the employees, and I will vote yes on it. Thank you.
Mr. Hart.
Yes, I won't address that other than to say you're wrong. This does not comport with the Illinois procurement law. I don't know why you would say that it does. If you have some legal information to cite, Mr. Jokers, I'd love to hear it.
I'm saying it's a renewal.
I'm saying that doesn't matter. But irrespective of that, that was one of the primary reasons and concerns for this, is that I think that we are required to go out for RFPs or RFQs every year, whether it's a renewal or a new policy. It's still $4 million that we're spending. We replace vehicles, we do a lot of things, and we go through a process. We didn't go through that process, we're not going through that process now. There aren't 21 carriers that would write this group in the state of Illinois. That's lunacy. You can send it to 21 carriers. Maybe that includes ancillary coverages, I don't know. But I can tell you that's not germane either. What is the law. And if Mr. Larson would like to address that for anybody, he's free to do so. I don't think we're complying, but irrespective, my new amendment would be to renew for the 3 months, which we've done, then renew January 1, 2024, as is stated here, and in conjunction with that, on the condition that we go out for RFPs in 2024. That is a process that takes months. That's not something you do January 1 of 2025. That's something that we could start the first quarter of 2024 and go through the process. Send out a written request, get RFPs, review the RFPs, and make a decision. That decision could be, it wouldn't matter if it's effective 2024 or 2025. We would appoint, and it might be Diamond Brothers. We would appoint them in 2024. You can't do that on or after the renewal.
Mr. Hart, I feel as though we're back to your original amendment. Is your amendment to create an RFP to go out for a broker?
Yes.
That is your original amendment.
No, my original amendment.
100% was your original amendment.
Okay. Well, that's my amendment, is to go out for an RFP. To do the process in 2024.
What process?
The RFP process.
For what? An RFP is a document, but RFP, request for proposal for what? A broker? An insurance plan?
We covered this. For a broker.
I thought we did cover this. And if it's for a broker, it's not germane to this. That's why I'm asking you to clarify.
It would be for an RFP relative to the health insurance plan. They're not separate. I'm not recommending an RFP for the property liability or any other coverages. It is for this plan that I'm proposing.
For health insurance.
For health insurance.
Not a broker.
It would be a combination of choosing a broker and the health insurance. Typically, the way this would work is that you'd go out for an RFP, you would choose a broker. Whichever broker you chose, you would give a BOR to, a broker of record letter, they would be the broker, and they might make a change for 2025. I'm simply telling you how the process works. That's how it works.
Thank you. And I am finding that amendment not to be germane to this. You're welcome to appeal my decision to the board.
I will appeal your decision to the board.
Any discussion on this? So those that would like to consider this amendment, please say aye.
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 And those that would not like to consider this amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Shocking. Party lines. I'm shocked.
Anything else, Mr. Hart? Before I move on to Mr. Newton, who has not spoken on the subject yet. Mr. Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can I speak to, what can I speak to?
The original motion on the floor is to approve the Blue Cross Blue Shield employee health insurance renewal for January 1st, 2024.
Well, since I agree with it, I have nothing to speak to at this point. Thank you.
All right. Madam Clerk, please take roll.
Tim Whalen,
Yes.
Ronnie Bush,
Yes.
Samuel Newton,
Aye.
Luann Hayes,
Yes.
Casey Anthony,
Aye.
William Hadley,
Yes.
Jim Hart,
No.
Kirk Copeland,
Aye.
Adam Mottero,
Aye.
Larry Jogers,
Aye.
Brooke Deininger,
Yes.
Scott Helms,
Aye.
Jackie DeMeester,
Aye.
Nicole Baker,
Aye.
Steve Frick,
Aye.
Brian Brandt,
Aye.
15A, 1 nay, motion carries.
Mr. Whalen, any other information out of your committee?
Yeah, a couple of quick things, Mr. Chairman. I just, again, wanted to thank Mr. Wright and Mr. Wright and Diamond Brothers for the work that they did on that. That was a lot of work in a short amount of time, and I think it's going to be a benefit to both the county and its employees. Two other real quick things. We're reviewing right now the levy request. We laid that over in finance. So if any of the board members would like information on that or like to work with that, I think our finance director sent out information on that to that effect. So if you have any questions on that, simply ask me or get with our finance director. I'm sure she may be inside as well. And then on the 2024 budget process and, you know, some things that's slowly meandering, I just wanted to amplify your comments earlier, Mr. Chairman. Please, as committee chairman, as county board members, please stay engaged in that process and encourage the department heads and everybody to be on track with what we need to do there. So, thank you.
Ms. Anthony, I believe, has a question.
Yes, actually just two requests. The first request being, it's hard to get information right when we're supposed to vote on it, especially with such a major decision. I asked questions where the answers were right in front of me, but it was literally like I'm just seeing this because it wasn't sent out in either the finance or the county board packet. So I just request that whenever possible, when we have the information, because I'm assuming that this was given and gone over in finance, that it be sent out to the board. And then a second, the request would be, you said that the levy information was sent out. I don't have that email, so if that could be sent out to the full county board, that would be really appreciated. Thank you.
We will definitely get that out. Thank you. Mr. Hart.
I just wanted to clarify, did I hear the chairman of finance say that we would be going out for an RFP in this upcoming year?
I committed to the fact that we would do that as part of the committee process, most certainly. I would bring that up once we get through this year in January, and we can certainly look at how that process might work. I'd like to understand exactly how it would work, and as a committee, we will decide that. I can't do that myself, but I can guarantee you that it will be on the agenda of the finance committee next year.
That's great. I just think it's something we should do, which was my overriding point, because again, whether we can or can't, or the legalities of it, that's important, but the important thing is to do the process and manage it the right way. So I'm thrilled to hear that. I also want to thank Diamond Brothers and Carrie McWright for all the work they did. This is a lot of work, it really is. And they came up with a great result. So I don't want anyone to take this as sour grapes. This is just financial management and being proactive. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Copeland, Public Property and Safety, you have no action items. Any thoughts?
Just some information, Chairman. We went through coroner's budget proposal, EMA's budget proposal, and the sheriff's department budget proposals. We didn't see any problems with them. They're going to be laid over till the next month for approval. During the meeting, Sheriff Stowell informed us that the Sheriff's Reserve Unit is an integral part of his department. They were called out during the middle of the night for 2 subjects on the Pecatonica River had fallen in. There was a caller, showed where their location was, and they were out in 10 to 20 minutes and did a search and was able to retrieve the 2 stranded in the river. Also, Sheriff Stowell told us about his crime suppression unit, and we were very impressed with enforcing narcotics trafficking, suspicious activity, chronic nuisances, serious traffic. We had, when I was working in the Freeport PD, we had a street crimes unit, and that did quite a bit to curtail crime. And I thought this unit is going to be very good. And that's about it.
All right, thank you very much. We'll move on to administration. Mr. Jogers, I believe you have 2 action items.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. First up, we have the approval of Microsoft licensing agreement, and that was number 7, I believe, in your packet. Nope, number 6, excuse me, number 6. And this came about, we have renewal going on, and we have slight vulnerability with archiving. Can't get into too many of the details here in the public, but so we need to up the licenses from some G1s and G3s to mainly G3s. And please correct me, Mr. Louis, if I'm straight here. So at the administration meeting, we voted to approve this quote number 1 for $89,982, I believe. And then as I was walking in tonight, I was made aware by the IT manager that the line item that we were going to take this out of, the extra money, we had $42,000 available, but the other line item was misread. And the finance director made us aware of that, and there was only $3,000 in there, so we are short of that. So saying all that, I'm sure there's going to be a few questions, and that's fine. But I think with the need for this vulnerability, I think I would like to make a motion to approve depending the funding, and we will sort that out with the finance director and the next meeting.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor.
Motion to approve.
Second by Mr. Hart. You made the motion.
I did.
Discussion. Ms. Anthony.
Do we know any of the other options that may be available for funding?
Mr. Louis.
After talking with Adrian today, it sounds like contingency might be an option. There was $42,000 that was budgeted for this line item. That's what it was year to year. We're in renewal, so the price lock that was on it is no more. The cost had went up since we were locked in last time. So $42,000 of that is sitting in a line item now to be used. So I talked with Adrian today because we realized there was a shortfall. One, the amount that was, if we just went with a standard renewal, it would still cost us about $17,000 more, but to do it absolutely right, we're looking at another $47,000 altogether to do it right and make sure that the county is shored up for what they need.
Anything else, Ms. Anthony?
No.
No other discussion. Madam Clerk, please take roll on this.
Larry Jogers.
Aye.
Brooke Deininger.
Aye.
Scott Helms.
Aye.
Jackie DeMeester.
Aye.
Nicole Baker.
Aye.
Steve Frick.
Yes.
Ryan Brandt.
Aye.
Tim Whalen.
Yes.
Ronnie Bush.
Aye.
Samuel Newton.
Aye.
Luann Hayes.
Aye.
Casey Anthony.
Aye.
William Hadley.
Yes.
Jim Hart.
Yes.
Kirk Copeland.
Yes.
Adam Otterer.
Aye.
16 A, 0 nay, motion carries.
Thank you. Mr. Jokers for your next action item, please.
Thank you. The second item is approval of resolution increasing election judge compensation. That is number 7 in your packet. And basically what that is there's a grant to improve or increase the funding for paying election judges. And with that money, this resolution would increase the election judge paid by $20, bringing their total daily compensation to $160 for a 15-hour day, which averages out to about $10.65 an hour. So I think it's very fair for the election judges, and since we're reading the grant to cover this, I would make a motion to approve.
Motion on the floor, is there a second? By Ms. Deininger. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, take roll on this as well, please.
I have no light on.
I apologize, Mr. Hart. Please.
What is the amount of the grant?
Would you like me to clarify? It is not actually a grant. Currently, for each election judge, we are reimbursed $45. With the new legislation, there's a $20 additional increase that we will be reimbursed per election judge. If we do not increase on our end, we can accept that additional $20 from the state.
Cannot.
Cannot.
Increase. Can we increase it more? I don't think it's nearly enough for what they do. I really mean it. They do a great job. That's a long day.
Sorry, I misspoke about the grant.
That's not a problem.
Yeah, no worries.
No, I'm not even being facetious. I'm very serious. Are we at liberty to increase that amount and pay them what is of? I'll be honest with you, I've seen a lot of those people. They're older than I am. I don't know how the hell they stay awake that whole 15 hours.
Wow. Mr. Hart, are you making a motion to amend?
I'm making a motion to amend to, what is the dollar amount now?
The increase is going from $140 to $160. If you would you like a recommendation from what some other counties may be doing in the state of Illinois?
I'd like to hear from you, and I'd like to hear from the chairman of finance.
Well, wait a minute. I'd like you to make a motion to amend, otherwise we're going to go back to the original motion, and you can discuss the original motion. Which would you prefer?
Well, as usual, I'm confused.
Well, I would ask those questions that you have under the original motion. You said you'd like to amend, but
okay.
You're not asking questions when you're amending.
Okay, so can I discuss and get some opinions on that?
Yes, absolutely.
That's what I'd like to do, and I'd like to hear from Jasmine and Tim Whalen.
I have seen some of.
Okay, I've got a few speakers before you, Mr. Frick, unless it's point of order.
Yeah.
Is it a point of order?
Yes.
Go ahead. Let me get your microphone on. Go ahead.
Do we have a second to the amendment?
No, he did not make a motion. He just said he would like to make a motion to amend.
We don't answer any questions without a second. We have no time.
We have a motion and a second on the original.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Go ahead, Ms. Ware.
There's some our current election judge compensation is comparable to surrounding counties, but I know that there's other counties in the state of Illinois that are accepting this $20 from the state board of election, and their county board is also matching that $20, which would be a $40 increase, taking it from $140 to $180.
Thank you. Mr. Whalen, do you have any input on this?
Thank you, Mr. Hart. I'm just looking at minimum wage in Illinois is $13 an hour, and for a 15-hour day, that's $185. That's my only comment.
Right. And thank you. That was my question.
All right, Mr. Jokers.
I just wanted to comment that I think it would make more sense to move this back to the administration committee on the raise, so we can do due diligence on it and make sure that we find a line item where we can take it out of and do this right rather than just winging it here. So I'm going to vote no on this. Not that I don't want the election judges to have another bump up. I just think we need to go back to committee and do that portion of it. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Hadley,
I'm making a motion to send it back to committee.
is there a second to that motion? And Mr. Jokers, any discussion on sending it back to committee? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that will go back in September, correct?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Any other information out of your committee?
Did we do the final vote on this? Did we do the final vote on the original amendment?
I believe that sending it back to committee supersedes the original motion to approve.
Okay, all right. Yeah, we looked at several of the budgets. We got one that we have to fix and a couple we have to approve, so it should be coming here in September. Other than that, I believe I have nothing else. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Hayes, did you have a question for
I
Mr.
did have a
Jokers?
question for Ms. Winger. Will pushing that back, if we push it back to the committee, will that deter your deadline for getting this into the state?
I only need a decision before the next election on March 19th.
Okay.
So
I
there's
just want to make sure that we want.
I'm trying to be ahead of the curve a little bit, so we do have time to go back.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, we will move on to court services. Mr. Bush, I believe you have an action item.
Yeah, approval of access to the justice grant is the grant that the city clerk, circuit clerk, received, and what it's going to be used for you're paying the yearly maintenance fees for the lobby docket that they use in the self-help center, and what that does is allow people to go to the website to see when they court, when they have court, and what courtroom and time. So I had to do a yearly maintenance fee for that to keep that program up and running. And also too, in the health center, the software for security for the purpose for public access. And then also too, running electrical to the Zoom in the courtroom where people could be able to go on and attend court instead of at home. So it's $11,000 grant. So I
For a second, by Mr. Whalen. Any discussion on this? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
One nay, motion passes. Any other information on your committee, Mr. Bush?
No.
All right, thank you. Moving on to nursing center, Mrs. Baker. We have 4 action items.
Yep. First item up is approval of bad debt write-off in the amount of $8,199.75. This is from October and November of 2022, which is now in the time frame for TCN's oversight. This was discussed at committee, and the county will be receiving a credit through TCN's next billing cycle of $400. So with that, I make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Hadley. Is there any discussion on this? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? One nay, motion passes. Your next item, please.
Next up is an approval of Behavioral Care Solutions Agreement. Behavioral Care Solutions is a service that will be as needed for the residents that may need additional mental health services, as well as licensed professional social worker. And there's a list inside the agreement. BCS will also be solely responsible for billing and collecting from residents and the third-party payers for their service. This service comes on site and meets with the residents, which adds a benefit so the residents are not being transported off-site for appointments. With that, I make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Hadley. Is there a discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? One nay, motion passes. Your next item, please.
Next up is approval of Chestnut Health Illinois agreement. This agreement is the same as the previous one. They specialize more in the muscle and muscle therapy. They will also be seeing long-term and short-term residents. The service comes on site, meets the residents, again, an added benefit, so they're not transporting off-site for appointments. Chestnut Health will also be solely responsible for billing and collecting from the residents and third-party payers for this service. So with that, I make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Ms. Hayes. Is there a discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
1 nay, motion passes. Your final item, please.
Last item is approval of MedBest for Foxfire. This agreement will be used if needed. Hopefully we won't need this, but it will support looking for an interim administrator along with TCM. So with that, I make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Bush. Is there any discussion?
My light's on.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Hart. Please.
I'm curious why we need this agreement when we already have an agreement with TCM and it includes this. I've also been informed that we've had problems with these companies in the past, and we've gotten better results from TCM, so I'm just curious what the actual need is.
This was at my behest, so if you don't mind, I would be glad to address that.
Please.
A few weeks ago, we were notified by our current interim administrator that she would be leaving. We contacted TCM first, asked if they had anyone available. They said no. We reached out to Tobin and Associates. They had no one available. We don't ever want to be put in that position again. So this company is not necessarily the first choice,
right? But
this is at the TCM. We talked to them about it. They're in agreement. Yes, get another source because there may not always be one. But TCM was our first call, and unfortunately, the first one to tell us they had no one.
So this is a backup.
It's a backup to a backup.
Right. Sounds like a good idea.
We have to have a licensed administrator in the building at all times.
Absolutely.
Does that answer your question?
It does, and I support this. I'll be voting.
Any other questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any other information?
Census today is 40, and we are in review of the budget. It is tabled, so we're coming in September.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to planning and development, Mr. Frick.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have one item this evening. It's the approval of the purchase of a vehicle for building and zoning. The current vehicle that they have right now, excuse me, needed some work, and as they were looking at it, the frame is broke. So they looked at a state bid vehicle, a Dodge Durango, which is item number 12 in your packet. And the purchase of the vehicle will have no effect on the budget. It's coming out of the trust funds that the zoning department currently has available. That I have a motion to approve the purchase of the Dodge Durango.
Second, Mr. Whalen. Discussion. Mr. Hart, did I just forget to take your head off?
No, I've got it back on.
Go ahead.
I absolutely support building and zoning in Beth. I think she's doing a phenomenal job. My issue with this, and I've expressed this before, is that this does have an effect on the budget. This is taxpayer money. And my issue is with these off-book accounts that we have. I don't think that those should exist, period, for anybody beyond $5,000. There's absolutely no need for it. Those should be line items in the budget. And that's my discussion. I do have an amendment to make.
You have the floor.
I'd like to make an amendment to send this back as a line item in the building and zoning budget.
So I believe what you'd rather do is make a motion to send back. If you amend it, you're amending to pass what's on the floor. Passing with an amendment. So I believe what you want to do is make a motion to send it back. Otherwise, if we vote on your amendment, we're passing it.
Well, then in that case, I'm making a motion to send it back.
Is there a second? Seeing none, motion fails. Mr. Jogerst.
Thank you, Chairman. I was just curious what current vehicle that is. Is it a car or a van, or what type of vehicle they currently have?
They currently have is a Chevy Blazer.
Blazer, so
Yeah, four-door Blazer.
very similar vehicles there.
Okay. This one's a little bigger. They needed some more space to keep things available in the vehicle. So they went with a larger vehicle, but the Trailblazer was just something that they had before.
Sure.
And it kind of got passed around, and it's got lots of miles in it.
Sure. Okay, I just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Mr. Frick.
I want to just turn my light off.
Okay. Mr. Hadley.
Yes, I got a couple of questions. I believe you didn't say the price of the vehicle.
Give me a second, it's item number 7 in your, or number 12 in your packet. 39,000, I believe.
There's two prices.
39,227.
Can I ask why this was not, this is a capital, and why wasn't this a supplement in your budget for next year?
Because this isn't coming out of budget funds, this is coming out of the zoning trust fund. So it's budget neutral.
Okay, I looked in the zoning budget, well, I actually looked in the audit report, it's, I couldn't find anything of, in there as trust fund. I did find special revenue in there.
So the trust fund is funded by permits.
That
was what I was going to say earlier.
Correct. And to add that as an income line or revenue line on a budget when you're not able to forecast future projects, this has all been approved by our auditors over the years. This account in particular is nothing new. It's been in there since before Mr. Groves, as far as I know. Not that that makes it right or wrong, but again, it's pretty difficult to project a revenue line on that. And I believe you went out for state bid on this, is that correct? Please do.
The company we're using is the company I went through in 2021. We had purchased a Dodge Durango for my use when former Director Groves had his Trailblazer. It was approved by the previous board when Mr. Hadley was chairman. And so now that vehicle is totally falling apart, not roadworthy. It's going to go to the highway department. They're going to see if they can fix it for their use. So we have to have a second vehicle at times. Yes, Nicole, I'm sorry, has been using her own vehicle, and that's a big liability. So the questions on the trust fund. This trust fund has been funded, I can't tell you how long, before Mr. Groves was in office. It's funded from special use permits, the solar that comes through the county, that fund goes into there, it pays for, and whatever's left over stays in that account. If I didn't have this trust fund, my budget would be raised because we have a minimum budget. Questions?
How much is in that fund right now?
Currently, there is $130,046.55. I like to keep it around 100,000. Last year we had 130 in it, and I gave the general fund $30,000 out of it.
Okay, that's fine. I wasn't done, Mr. Chairman, yet.
Go ahead.
So, my concern is that over the years, and this is quite expensive, and I know that we previously approved a Durango, and I want the board to know also, this is a police pursuit vehicle. I want to repeat again, a police pursuit vehicle that we would give the sheriff's department. So, saying that, I am going to make a motion to lower this to, instead of paying the $39,000 and getting this vehicle, to go with a $30,000 vehicle, and then I will abrogate if I can get a second on that.
Is there a second to the motion to amend?
I'll second.
By Ms. Anthony. Go ahead, Mr. Hadley.
Okay, the reason why I'm not totally against her getting a vehicle. Let's look at the assessor's office a while back. They purchased a used vehicle for about $15,000 to save the county money. Previously, many years ago, we bought 4 used police cars from the Missouri State Police, and they, because we were having a budget crunch, and so we bought 4. I remember Chairman Bloom flying them down there to bring back the vehicle. So we've had an intention of buying used vehicles. I did look around a little bit, and there is a Durango at one of our car dealerships. It's a 2020 Durango for about $30,000 roughly, and I know if we worked with the owner, that he would probably come down very considerably, because I know they mark these cars up quite considerably, but we need to be watching what we do with our money, and 30,000, we just got done, we're gonna have a supplement for the court services probation directors, she's requested in a supplement, $30,000 for a vehicle, so that's all I have to say.
All right, Ms. Anthony?
My comment, I guess, pertains to the amendment as well, since that's what's on the floor.
Correct.
My question was, why did we choose a police pursuit vehicle?
These are the ones that are state bid, that's what mine is now.
Did you look anywhere else?
This is where I've gone previously. The highway department, I believe, had gone through this years ago. EMA went through this in 2021, and I went through this in 2021. It's kind of a need right now. I have two, myself and Nicole, that need to go at the same time, and I don't trust her, not that I don't trust her in her car, I don't want her out in her car.
I understand that it could be a need, but going through a dealership would also be fairly quickly, going through a local dealer.
With going through a local dealer, I have to go out for an RFP.
But you don't for state bid because they already bought for it.
Correct.
It's 20,000.
I did check with Rick Bargo, and I would have to go out for an RFP to go through them.
County code is 20,000, state bid is 30. Anything else, Ms. Anthony?
What other options, did you look at other, I know that you prefer a Durango because it's bigger. What do you need that bigger vehicle for?
Stop work orders, T-posts, my post pounder, T-posts take up the back end of my truck, so that we have now. I believe we've been doing a lot more stop work orders. We did 2 in the past 2 weeks already.
And there's not, I've never been on the site, so I don't know what options are, but there's no other options that would be a lower cost.
Not on this that I've found, no.
My last question, I believe, would be, I know that it's a liability for someone to be driving their own vehicle. When is it necessary for both of you to be out at the same time?
Right now, quite a bit. We've been so busy, we haven't been able to get out on the road. My file folder is stuffed, that we need to go and make sure things are done, make sure setbacks are right. We need to both be out of the office. Probably, I'd like to only do 2 days a week at the same time, but other than, we could be out a full week at the same time, but we have to be in the office at times to help.
Thank you.
Mr. Jobers.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm just glad you're not buying the Hemi, because that's an extra couple grand, but I just wanted to comment, this vehicle here has a 5-year and 100,000 mile powertrain warranty that I don't believe you're gonna get on a used vehicle.
Correct.
Buying a used vehicle is always a roll of the dice, you never know what you're gonna get. I think you could easily, say you have a transmission issue, you could easily spend that $8,000 pretty quickly. My daughter's gone through that, so I think I'm okay with going out with this because it seems like a self-sustaining fund, and it seems like it's the right thing to do with the warranty. So thank you.
Mr. Hadley.
Yes, I want to correct a couple of things. Previously, our sheriff would go out for state bid on vehicles, and then Rick would match that state bid. We would go to him, and the sheriff would come back and tell us, Rick's going to knock another $200, $300, $400 off. So we've done that previously. Also, I know this is one bid cycle company over in Southwest Indiana, I believe. But I know that our county engineer can back me as we do have state bids through some 2 car dealerships. I believe one is in Iowa and one is in the suburbs of Chicago. So there's a special website you can get on for state bids, state of Illinois bids, not the Southeast Conference of Mayors. And I know, yes, we bought vehicles from them before, but there are, the state of Illinois bids out different vehicles too. And, did we even get on the state of Illinois bid website to look at those vehicles?
No, sir, I just reached out to Nick Patch, the dealer I had used previously.
Yeah, I would have recommended, and you know, 30,000, you can still buy a new vehicle because, they're out there, and I would recommend, I still going to stand by my motion and support this because, we need to save money and not spend money, and especially a police pursuit vehicle. I mean, we made the mistake once, but it doesn't make it right to make the mistake twice. The sheriff's gonna be needing squad cars pretty soon. These would be nice cars for him if he would like those type of cars. So, that's all I have, Chairman. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Hart.
Just a quick question, is there any possibility that the sheriff might have a vehicle that we could have and replace the sheriff vehicle? If we're, I don't know, I hadn't heard, but are we replacing sheriff's vehicles upcoming soon? Just a question. Anybody? Mr.
I
Chairman?
believe he is asking for a few vehicles in his 2024 budget. I do not know if he's trading in those vehicles or what the plan would be.
Is that a possibility we might want to look into before we vote on this?
There is a motion to amend on the floor right now that we need to vote on first.
Okay.
Anything else before I move on to Ms. Deininger?
No, thank you, sir.
Ms. Deininger?
Just a correction to the public safety that Chairman Holmes was just speaking of. That the sheriff is asking for 3 new vehicles. The other vehicles that he is looking to get rid of are no longer worth. They are asking for way too much money to replace the parts that need to be replaced. They are no longer worth being on the road. So this would not be a zoning vehicle to be used.
Okay, so it's not a possibility. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to ask the clerk to recite the amendment Mr. Hadley put forward so we know what we're voting on.
The amendment is to approve the purchase of a vehicle for building and zoning for $30,000.
Madam Clerk, please take roll on the amendment only.
William Hadley.
Yes.
Jim Hart.
Yes.
Kirk Copeland.
No.
Adam Modero.
Aye.
Larry Jogers.
No.
Brooke Deininger.
No.
Scott Helms.
No.
Jackie DeMeester.
No.
Nicole Baker.
No.
Steve Frick.
No.
Brian Brandt.
No.
Tim Whalen.
No.
Ronnie Bush.
No.
Samuel Newton.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure yes.
Luann Hayes.
I forgot the question.
30,000.
No.
Casey Anthony.
Aye.
Mr. Sherman.
5A, 11A. Motion fails.
All right, we are back to the original motion to approve. Is there any other discussion? Madam Clerk, please take roll.
Steve Frick.
Yes.
Brian Brandt.
Yes.
Tim Whalen.
Yes, ma'am.
Ronnie Bush.
Aye.
Samuel Newton.
Sure. Yes.
Luann Hayes.
Yes.
Casey Anthony.
Aye.
William Hadley.
No.
Jim Hart.
Yes.
Kirk Copeland.
Yes.
Adam Modero.
Aye.
Larry Jogers.
Aye.
Brooke Deininger.
Yes.
Scott Helms.
Aye.
Jackie DeMeester.
Yes.
Nicole Baker.
Aye.
15A, 1 nay. Motion carries.
All right, thank you, Ms. Henning. Mr. Frick, any other information out of your committee?
We did review some budgets that were completed. We thank the staff for getting those done and pass them on to finance. And that's all we really have this evening. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mr. Brandt, we'll move on to Public Works. I believe you have an action item, sir.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before us yet this evening is HD 23-20, which establishes McConnell Road as a Class 2 truck route, which increases the weight limitations to 80,000. As a point of note, the agenda refers to a Folky 226. Technically, it is Illinois Route 26, so I just want to make sure we're okay with that.
Are you asking me?
Yes, I am.
You can make a motion to amend it if you'd like, or approve it with that change.
Okay. On that note, I'd like to approve HC 2320 with the change in wording from 26 to Illinois Route 26.
Is there a second? Mr. Jogers, is there discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Any other information of your committee, Mr. Brand?
No, not at this time, thank you.
All right, thank you. We will move on to public comment. If there is public comment, please come up to the microphone, state your name, and you'll be given 3 minutes.
Good evening, Ed Klein. Can you hear me? I'm a proud Democrat. That does not mean that I don't vote for Republicans. That does not mean that I don't agree with Republicans. That is a label that is, it means something, but it's not the bottom line. Mr. Hadley was in a meeting this week, and I listened to the audio and I was shocked to hear that someone said that he was not a Republican anymore. Now, I have no idea why that person said that, but I happen to know that I have asked Mr. Hadley to become just independent. I said, the Republican Party has left you. There's a lot of people that are crazy, they're way out fringe radicals, and I said, Mr. Hadley, you're very moderate. He said, no, I've been a Republican all my life. I am so proud of that, and this is who I am. I respect that. I respect him very, very much. And it really makes me angry when somebody challenges that. When somebody says somehow he cannot call himself a proud Republican. This is out of control in this boardroom. Out of control. And the people that really got to do some, I hope you do some real good self, introspection. Because this is not about Democrats and Republicans, this is about what we do for the community. I've said this before, it falls on deaf ears. We absolutely have to serve all the population of this county, and not just the people that agree with us. And good, discussion is excellent. We need to have vigorous discussion, but we just there's no reason to be putting labels and criticizing people. I don't understand that. So thank you very much for all your service, and please let the tone be a little different.
Anyone else?
Casey Anthony, I just want to follow up with that just quickly, because that is happening, and I did not notice it myself, but I certainly heard that it happened. I just want to remind the board that is a violation of our county code under the decorum section. That's 2911. So if you'd like to look that up, we do actually have decorum policies and procedures that we do need to follow as members of this board when we took the oath to be a county board member. That's not really why I came up here. I just thought I'd follow up with that. I came up because for the 708 Mental Health Board, I apologize, Chairman Helms, I probably should have sent this to you, the invitation previous, but when Luann came up and talked about hers, I figured I should probably talk about Eats and Beats. So one of the member organizations of the 708 Board does host Eats and Beats, which is August 25th and August 26th out of the Freeport Arts Plaza. Many of the organizations that are part of the 708 Mental Health Board will be there. There are vendors there selling baked goods and different food items and things like that. All of the profits go into, they give back to all the local nonprofits in the area. There's always good music, there's food, and usually there's a pretty good attendance, so I would encourage anyone, if they haven't gone before, to please do so and support the 708 Mental Health Board or services and organizations that we support. Thank you.
Ms. Anthony, could you give those dates again?
The 25th and the 26th.
And Freeport
Arts, in the Freeport Arts Plaza.
And time?
5 to, sorry, makes it.
Anyone?
I'm sorry, I didn't write that down.
5 to 10, 5 to 11 every night, each night, Friday and Saturday.
I will download the invitation and send it to Ms. Newcomer so she can give it out to the rest of the board.
Perfect, thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Judy Matson. I'm relatively new to Fruitport, and I have to tell you, this is my first board meeting, and I'm so disappointed sitting here. It's so divided between party lines as opposed to what should be good for the community. That's just been so, you don't bid anything, so you're not putting out prices for things. It just seems like it's just all over the place. They are doing wonderful work over at the nursing home. They still want to shut it down and sell it to some corporation that's going to do who knows what. And yet that's what everybody here apparently wants to do, the majority of people here. And I just don't understand that. Excuse me. And I'm very sorry. If you want to be a good community, you want to be a good, solid community, why would you take away any part of that that is benefiting the community? I just don't understand that. And that's what you're doing if you sell that nursing home to some other company that's gonna, you know what big companies do to small companies. That's all I have to say.
Anyone else?
Evening. I'm Karen Rivers, and Mr. Hart, I want to thank you. I'm sorry, I don't know your name, and Mr. Hadley. There was a meeting last night. I'm sorry. Okay. Anyway, it was an excellent meeting. I would like to see my board reps also come to the meeting because we have a lot of issues in our community. With that being said, I agree with these folks. Man, there is so much tension amongst all of you sitting up here. It's like, goodness, let's use a knife and cut through it and work for the people. And the main reason I'm here, with all the solar farms coming into our county, I'm hoping the companies are required to only put in American-made parts and panels. We don't need to put our money into other countries. It needs to stay in the U.S. economy. I also would like to hope that you folks can have some say-so that we hire local help instead of wherever these solar panels people are getting their employees from. I think it's very important to keep the money in this community and this country. And I really do hope you guys can get along, but I don't know. I do hope you can start getting along. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing no one else, we'll move on to new business. Approval of letter of engagement with Ice Miller LLP, Administrator Newcomer.
Yes, this is before you tonight. Previously, when we were working with an attorney and the letter of engagement period with the broker previously for the sale of the nursing home, we had approved an agreement with Polsonelli to work with attorney Chuck Sheets. That agreement was still in effect. However, when I reached out to Mr. Sheets, I was informed he had retired, and he recommended that I reach out to Mr. Lundy at Ice Miller. Once I received that notification, I spoke with our state's attorney. He agreed that that was the action I should take to reach out to Mr. Lundy to get a letter of engagement before the board for approval.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
By Mr. Frick, is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Whalen, Mr. Hart.
Questions? What is this going to cost?
It's on page 2 of the agreement, at the top.
These are the rates. Do we have an estimate of what this might cost us?
Other than what's listed in the compensation section, no.
These rates look pretty outrageous to me. $780 for a senior partner. $780 an hour. This is our recommendation? Really?
We'll let Mr. Hart continue, please.
I would be curious as to how many hours we estimate. Here's a great bargain, $690 an hour. Fantastic. Paralegals at $250 or $380. So my first question is, what's an estimate of the hours? When would we actually be using this? We haven't approved anything. We're engaging with Ice Miller to do what?
Ms. Newcomer, would you like to take that, please?
I just wanted to note that I did pull up the agreement with Polsonelli, and the rates, especially the personal rate for the attorney listed in the engagement, is the exact same amounts that we engaged in 4 years prior with Polsonelli. So the rates are not out of line in comparison to what was previously approved.
4 years, that agreement had been made 4 years prior?
I believe it was in 2019 we entered into the agreement with them.
And the agreement, what the exact nature of this agreement would be what? When would we utilize them?
This is to work through the process of the letter of engagement with the proposed purchaser of the nursing center.
I thought we had signed letter of agreement, letter of intent.
Yes, and that enters us into a due diligence period, and we need representation, specialized representation during that time frame.
I thought we already went through the due diligence process. I know that they have been out and inspected the facility. We've given them financial data. I had been informed that we were going through the due diligence process already.
So what this would be is for the contract that Upward Care is preparing that's nearly done. Once that's completed, it would go to Ice Miller before it would come here to make sure it's legal and that they're following all requirements of the IDPH, which there is no one on the county side that has that specialty.
So letter of intent that we have that's signed by them and us is with whom?
Letter of intent is with Upward Care, correct.
Right.
Stern Rehab would be the operator.
Okay. And our next agreement would be Upward Care's preparing of
Contract for purchase.
Contract for person. Before we get to that, we'd have to vote on that, correct?
No, they would look at this document before it comes to the board to make sure it's legal. That we're covering all requirements with IDPH, including the operator applying for a needs license to operate the facility.
So we would spend the money on Ice Miller to make sure that's all appropriate before we vote.
Correct.
On that. The certificate of need, I know can take at least 6 months, is my understanding.
We don't know a date or how long it would take.
I know DeKalb's been waiting for, I don't know how long. I know you're aware of that situation. Okay, I just have a problem with spending this kind of money for something that we haven't approved, we haven't voted on, and I don't see where we have the votes for it. So we're basically, again, is there any estimate of what this might cost to get through that process?
Do you recall how many hours, 4 years? Mr. Hadley, you were a part of that process 4 years ago. I think you were pretty engaged with it. Do you recall?
Mr. Sheets, well, I don't want to throw out numbers and realize it, but he said that, through the whole process, anywhere from 30 to 60,000 to do the whole process, so. But don't take my word on that. It's been a while because I believe we had Mr. Sheets here or on the phone. We had him on the phone and got to ask him all those questions. So it's quite expensive. So that's what I remember only.
Thank you.
May I ask another question?
Can I move on to Miss Anthony and then come back to your question?
Thank you.
Ms. Newcomer, were you going to speak any further?
I was just going to add that generally all contracts are reviewed by legal before they're brought to the board for approval. So.
Okay. Ms. Anthony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
I'm going to be voting no for this, and I just want to explain why. While I absolutely know that you need special legal representation for something like this, and I was part of the process 4 years ago. I'm gonna stand by what I've been saying, for months and probably years now, that we have started down this track because all of these things only take a majority, a simple majority vote, when the votes aren't there to actually sell it. So we keep doing all these things and engaging with all of these people when we know, we're all aware that we don't have the votes to sell it. So we are just throwing money down the drain. So I'm not quite sure why we continue down this road. We should just be disengaging with, going down the process of the disengagement with the letter of intent, and starting there, because if it will cost money before we can get to that vote. So when this attorney reviews it, it will cost us money, and then we'll have the vote. And on just the entire other side of it, not to mention not having the votes, we still have two differing legal opinions on whether or not it's legal to sell the nursing home. And you know, I know that they discussed the referendum at the last nursing home committee, but there's all these things still up in the air. So I'm voting no for those reasons. Thank you.
Mr. Hart, since you've already spoken once, can we give Mr. Whalen a shot and then come back to you afterwards? Sure. So press your button again, please, Mr. Hart. Go ahead, Mr. Whalen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just say I would support this only because it's interesting to me that we're deciding what a vote is before we're taking the vote. I've heard that comment many times, and I don't know that we know what's going to happen at the end of this process. We may find that this company is extraordinary, and it might change some people's minds. I don't know. We may find that that's not, and this whole board will vote against it. I've been an advocate for it at this point because of the work that I've done since being on this board, because I think myself it's going to be a good thing for both the employees and the people that are there at this point, especially if it's a good outfit. I want to see that. I want to understand who these people are. If they're as good or better than the management company we have engaged in, we're paying $400,000 a year for, I say more power to them. Let's see what happens. But I think it makes sense to go through the process. A lot of these people weren't around for the last process that we went through. And we don't know how people are going to vote in the end. We may think we know, but I don't completely. So I'll vote for it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Hart.
I was simply going to ask if we could perhaps have Mr. Larson maybe just render a guess, a ballpark, as to how many hours you think this might be, or anything, add anything to it. You've reviewed it, obviously.
Yeah, there's no way that anyone can give you any kind of realistic expectation here. We don't know how complicated the contract's going to be. Maybe he looks at it and it's fine right away, or maybe it's there's some complication to it, or maybe we have specific requests that we want him to add. Perhaps related to like Medicare beds or something of that nature. And then, I think the bulk of the expense would be if the board voted to sell the nursing home. It's not my area of specialty. I couldn't begin to give you any kind of reasonable estimation of what's going to happen in that scenario. So I will decline to make a wild guess.
May I ask you another question?
Of course.
Are you envious of the fellow that makes $780,000?
Not even a little bit.
Not even a little.
He should be envious of me.
That's $1,560,000 a year. That's pretty good pay. He must be one hell of a magnificent lawyer.
Well, he may make that money, but he doesn't get to work with you, Jim.
That's true. I think this guy must be such a good lawyer that he could get a sodomy charge reduced.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hart. Ms. Anthony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to follow up on something that was said just previously. I would argue that's true. We shouldn't be basing things on what we perceive the vote will be. However, it's been noted that's from months and months of listening to other people's opinions on talking about the nursing home. Even so much so that a local newspaper picked up on this and called us the Stubborn Six. And so, you know, there's, I can say with relative certainty based on comments made with board members that there are 6 of us and so that vote would fail. So I just wanted to point that out, that it's not just something that I'm making assumptions on, that other people perceive that as well. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve. Madam Clerk, please take roll.
Steve Tripp,
Yes.
Ryan Brandt,
Aye.
Tim Whalen,
Yes.
Ronnie Bush,
No.
Samuel Newton.
Absolutely not.
No?
No.
Luann Hayes,
No.
Casey Anthony,
No.
William Hadley,
No.
Jim Hart,
No.
Kurt Copeland,
Yes.
Adam Modera,
No.
Larry Jogers,
Aye.
Brooke Deininger,
No.
Scott Holmes,
Aye.
Jackie DeMeester, Nicole Baker.
Aye.
Eight.
Okay, motion fails. Anything else on this item? Is there a motion to adjourn? And Mr. Bush, is there a second? By Ms. Deininger. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.